Are we ready to go?
Check.
Right, yeah.
No, nothing yet.
Check. Hello, hello.
So I probably. I'll try.
There we go.
There we go. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're ready to go. It's 11:02 and I call the meeting to order. You want to do a roll call, Becky?
I sure will. Bob Olson.
Here.
Tom Kitson.
Present.
Jack Scrogstad.
Here.
Mike Copine.
Here.
Mike Zeman.
Here.
Jim Sheeline.
Here.
Tom Wilson.
Here. All right, public attendees? Paul? Nancy?
Just for the agenda.
B? Alice? Alice Marie, no? All right. Well, that was easy. We'll go down to the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, November 17th, 2022. Is there any corrections or changes? If none, we're going to let the minutes stand as read. We'll go to reports from committee's chair. I'm going to start with Jack Scrogstad.
All right, County Services met Monday. We had 3 members of the 5-member committee present. 2 besides me were new board members. Department heads that were present during the committee introduced themselves and gave brief descriptions of their departments and what they're responsible for. We also approved the minutes for the Ad Services and Transportation Committee from last month. Dave Anderson provided the committee with minutes for the Transportation Committee as he was the one documenting the minutes. I think there will be a change need for some adjustments as they present themselves as we move forward with the Transportation Department as part of the County Services Committee. The committee moved motor fuel tax for fiscal year 2023 to this committee to consider for the full board. We also moved petition 22P1598 and 159 special use community solar project, South Dixon Township, to this committee for consideration for the full board. Dee Duffy explained the amended zoning building permits fees with some additions, which is also before this committee today. There is a resolution for committee for consideration for the full board. IT Director Gorski provided information in reference to board members getting emails to conduct county business, the costs associated with it, and the approximate time for the implementing of it. Near the end of the meeting, we attempted to do a test of the voting system. It did not go as well as planned. I just think there needs to be some tweaking in the procedures on getting it started. I personally like the idea when you're voting, you could not see what anybody else voted for. And that is my report.
Any questions for Jack? Thank you, Jack. Go ahead.
Sorry. On the cost associated with the email, what Paul have, do you have that? I was trying to pull up your minutes.
Okay.
I think it was $900 and something, I think.
Yeah.
Somewhere
Per?
think that-
Total.
No, total.
No,
Oh,
total.
total.
So, and that's without any kind of associated, because it has to go through Microsoft. That's without having Microsoft, for that particular, person.
Well,
Just an email.
If it's $900, I heard that there was more substantial. I thought it was more substantial than $900, but yeah, we need to have that done, just in our presentation that we had during reorg meeting was made very clear that for the protection of the board and protection of the county, that we need to get that done.
I believe it's in my agenda on board under his, for that document.
Okay. All right. I'll look for it.
if you want-
$960. Thank you, Becky.
Yep. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
So is that something that we can have that would be in Paul's budget, or do we need to have something at that?
We already authorized it through the board chairman's budget. At this point, Paul questioned whether he had it in his budget, and we just said, okay, fine, we'll take it from our budget. We're not going to quibble about $916.
There you go. All right. I just didn't know if I was going to see it come through finance next month or not, so.
And one other
Very good.
follow-up on that, I was concerned when Paul initially reported on this at Jack's meeting about whether that would affect your access to onboard and whether you'd have to all go back out and you don't have to reset up onboard, but you will have to individually go into your accounts and change the email address so that onboard then will go to this newly created email. But we'll show you how to do that as soon as those emails are issued, and Jonathan is supposed to be working on that. Actually, probably not this week yet, but next week we'll start seeing some of those get issued.
Okay, thank you.
What about the onboard voting, Wendy? You had some problems. Do we got to figure it out yet or? no?
Well, we think so. We're going to test it again this meeting.
Cool.
Yay!
All right. Well, you don't get to vote then, I guess.
Worked the last meeting.
And I believe that we could
We an
probably
intelligent committee member.
install the email on the onboard iPads for each person too. I believe we can be able to do that, so.
Yep, Jonathan or Paul indicated that Jonathan should be able to help with that. It may not be, it depends on whether he has your login to be able to log in and actually change in onboard your account. So it may take you guys doing it, but he can help if possible.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to Mr. Copine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Safety met last Monday. Relatively short meeting. The previous meeting minutes were approved. We didn't have any public attendees. We heard from the department heads that were present. The only real significant situation that we had discussion on was the bar forum for appellate prosecutor's office resolution, which is dealing with some of this new stuff that's coming across the pike. And Mr. Boonstra explained that. We didn't have anything under unfinished business, new business. We did do a test of the voting system and a couple of little snags, but Wendy fixed those real quick or figured them out. And other than that, any department head reports would be on your source on the laptop, and that's all I have for a report.
Any questions for Mr. Copine? And thanks, Mike. Mr. Zeman.
I don't really have a official report for minutes and all that. We did meet the last meeting, the first meeting that I was chair of, and Angie Shippert was there and Nancy wasn't. I wish she would have been because Wendy gave a great presentation and she'll have to do it all over again for Nancy. But it went well. Angie seemed a little overwhelmed at first, but she kind of, came more relaxed at the end, and we'll move on from there. I'll get everybody up to speed. I'll let them run the meeting on occasion. So that's really all I got.
Any questions for Mike? Thanks, Mike. We'll go to Mr. Sheeline.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance Committee met at 9 o'clock this morning. The only thing that came out was the resolution. Oops, I'm doing the wrong thing. Motion that coming to executive on the Family Food Basket Donation Event under the auspices of the special services. And that, for those of you that aren't familiar with what that is, that's a charitable giving thing that Bob has kind of helped organize. Donations from outside businesses that are donating money to provide food baskets for the holiday season. And there's a donation form. I had it running around Finance Committee meeting, but it's being done in conjunction with Lots, the Health Department, and us. So that approval came through Finance, come before this to be placed on the agenda. We had the Appellate Prosecutor's Office resolution, which is just a housekeeping matter that's within Charlie's budget, but it still needs to be approved by the board. And then we did have a request on some clarification on the supervisor of safety position by the sheriff. And since he wasn't able to be here, I didn't think it was appropriate that we took any action on it. So that was tabled, and we'll deal with that next month. And then we had our tests, and everything went swimmingly in Finance, pretty much. So anyway, that's my report. I'm sorry. We also had the quarterly's financial report. If you have any questions for Paul, he's here. But the bottom line is that year ends came in pretty much exactly where we thought we would be. I think it was $2.8 million got transferred into capital, which is phenomenal. And so at the time being, we feel very good about the financial position that the county has and able to meet our obligations. We did have some discussion in regards to what the committee is going to need to be looking for as far as revenues and trends as we go through this fiscal year, because we have a hard time believing that with all the challenges in the economy, that the sales taxes and different things are going to continue to be trending as strong as what they did last year. So
I think, is there any appetite for the finance and properties to have a retreat, so to speak, to discuss? We got a lot of projects going on. Should we do that?
I did not bring that up to the committee, but I've been talking to, giving some heads up to individual committee members that there's probably going to be some things coming down the pike. So, but if that's something you want to have as a formal meeting, I'd be open to that.
Yeah, and I think we open it up to all board members, of course, but
Sure.
make sure both committees are there. And I think Tom's got a lot of projects out in the horizon, and I think we need to weight them, so to speak, and talk to finance so we're all on the same page. Any
No,
questions?
that's good if, however you want to get that organized.
We also approved the food basket pass on. Just for that to be approved.
Okay.
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 Finance.
All right. All right. Any questions? Thank you. Thanks, Jim. Mr. Wilson, like to update us on the elevator?
We met with me, myself, and I, and everything went swimmingly well. It was a brilliant meeting, and everything was fantastic. So the elevator got fixed. We had it out of commission, I think, last week. They got the old part. They cannibalized something somewhere. We used old parts to fix it. It worked for a day, then it didn't. Kone was here again yesterday, but we're having issues with the elevator. But we anticipate both elevator projects being done by August, September of next year. I mean, it just depends on how long engineering takes and what have you, but we're going to struggle through keeping this thing running. And it's at the mercy of Kone as far as when the projects will get started and when the parts will be available to do the project.
I think Wendy signed the contract, right, for the other elevator, so we're good on that. So I
Yeah, we
think
should
we're-
have both of them issued.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Thanks, Tom. I stole my glasses. All right, we'll go to old business. I have none before us. New business, we got a resolution, county board meeting dates for the fiscal year 2023. I need a motion to move that to the county board agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Copine moves and Tom Wilson seconds it. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We got a revision to the board rules and procedure. I guess, Wendy, you want to take that?
I will. This is the, you might call it the reinvention of the Properties Committee called County Facilities and Maintenance Committee. That's been discussed here over the last month. So the board rules now include that committee as one of your standing committees, and it kind of lays out what the responsibilities of that committee are. So that's in your board rules if there's any questions.
Questions or comments? We just got too much going on to, I think, combine that committee. So I'm going to need a motion to approve and to move that to the county board agenda as well.
So moved.
I got Mr. Kitson moved, Jack Scroggs seconds it. Any discussion? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And we'll have, how do we deal with that at the end of the meeting next week? So we'll have a resolution. Do I have to do that by resolution for a properties committee as well?
No, your board rules are going to take care of it. And just like any other standing committee, you will appoint the members of that standing committee, which I know you kind of already have an idea of who you're going to go with in that. All we needed is to have that included in the board rules as a standing committee.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for clarification. We'll go to 7C, establishing zoning ordinance review and ad hoc committee. I've got that named out.
So once again, this is a conversation that's been taking place over the last month. It's kind of a kind of a retrofit or a refurbishing of the former Renewable Energy Committee. As we've been talking for the last year, there are some the zoning ordinance itself outside of the renewable energy items needs to be reviewed and refreshed. It hasn't been looked at, and my guess was 15 years, maybe a little bit longer. So your board rules allow for the board chairman to propose an ad hoc committee such as this. In the board rules, it says there is by resolution, you identify the name of the committee, you identify the number of committee members, and you identify the purpose. In that resolution that's already attached in your packet, I do have one adjustment to make. I put the number of members at 5, and it's now my understanding that that's moved to 6, so I'll fix that. In that resolution, just as an FYI, I did not name the members. I did that deliberately because under ARPA last year, we named the members and we kept changing them. So then we had to keep filing new resolutions. So your board rules allow the chairman, with the advice and consent of the county board, to create this ad hoc committee, naming the committee, the purpose, and how many members will be on it. It doesn't require you to name the committee members in the resolution. So this will allow the chairman the flexibility going forward to add or remove members as members' schedules change.
So I need a motion to approve and to move that to the county board agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Copine moves, Mr. Scroggstead seconds it. Any discussion? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. So item D, a couple of these were just for discussion. We need a strategic plan for moving forward with the dangerous and abandoned buildings in the county. We need a process to identify and choosing contractors and et cetera. And we still have the Lee Center School and what our plans are to do with that, because we don't have ownership of that. The prior owner has that. So how do you guys, how do you want to move forward on this? Do we make an ad hoc, or do we, I hate to have committees and committees.
So I did, Bob, I didn't get a chance to share with you, but I did get a chance to talk to Charlie yesterday and asked him kind of what his vision was and what he felt would be the most applicable. For everybody's reminder, he did appoint special attorney Tim Zollinger to help us with the legal side of this and filing the cases in court. So Charlie and Tim work well together in terms of the legal side. What we would be looking for is feedback from the board on which properties do we move forward with? And also, we're going to run out of money here. We only allocated $100,000. So we got to talk about where do we go from here, if anywhere. So what Charlie's suggestion was, Bob, and I kind of threw out all the options, ad hoc committee, just simply report to public safety, which is kind of the umbrella committee under that. And he said, if you're asking my opinion, it would be my opinion that maybe we just assign a liaison to work with the county administrator and the state's attorney to kind of give some direction, and that it reports back to public safety. Now, that doesn't mean all of you can't enter in your opinion on where you think we should go, but sometimes we have to act relatively quickly, and having a liaison role, not a formal committee or ad hoc committee, allows us to move a little quicker on some of these things. So I'll throw that out there for consideration. It doesn't matter to me, except that we do need to, I'm going to need some direction, so.
I like that idea as well. I don't like me and Wendy making the decisions on this. We've had to on this other situation. So if everybody's all right with that, I don't need a vote, but maybe not ahead, that we'll get a liaison and we'll make that work of a board member. I'll discuss it with a couple.
Good.
All right. Thanks, Wendy. We'll move down to E, the joint tourism grant. I've got it just for discussion only. It's a grant with the city of Dixon. I guess it's a dual grant. It's our grant. It's $50,000. We put in, they match it if we get the grant. When do you want to take it? You talk to Dixon Main Street.
Yeah, so Dixon Main Street, Jeremy has actually made this proposal. He's actually the one that's writing the grant, and in fact, has already submitted the grant, because like all grants, you've heard me say this before, there's a hard and fast deadline for submitting it. So he submitted it. He would like the county to participate in that grant, assuming that we would get it, and provide some matching funds. He has a whole proposal laid out about what he would do with those matching funds, including a larger regional approach to tourism. He's got icons suggested and websites suggested. He's got a lot of ideas in the hopper. He was looking for our head nod because technically he's already moved forward with the grant. He said, I understand the county board has not had time to consider or approve this. He said, but I have to apply for it, so I'm going to apply for it with the understanding that if the county doesn't participate, we will find another participant. But if the county chooses to participate, then this regional approach would include Lee County versus not including Lee County.
So I like his approach. He's going to rebrand Lee County, and when you talk to him, they're excited. And the only downside is it does not involve Lee County tourism at this time. And so that's the stickler that I have, but I think all these funds, they're going to do a digital ad and maybe a TV commercial type atmosphere. They've got a lot of ideas and I'm excited about it.
A lot of the dollars, I think, would be associated with the rebranding and then a website that would be a regional approach to tourism website. Sorry, Jim, I think I interrupted you.
No, I was, so question is this, we still had some funds dedicated for economic development within ARPA.
Yep.
Is that your idea?
That was where my idea was going, but
And the amount's 50,000?
50,000.
So we'll need to have that on the
Finance.
finance committee agenda
Yep.
for next month.
And that's my fault for not getting there, but I want to discuss it here because it's kind of a awkward situation with Lee County Tourism, but I'm really excited. I'm not taking anything from them, but Jeremy's got a good plan and a good direction. And he would be glad to come in and explain it to us.
Well, and I was just going to say, for the committee's sake,
Yep,
to have that presentation being made so that the committee knows what they're voting on.
yep. But everybody's okay moving forward. All right. So we'll run that through committee next month and then we'll put it on the agenda following finance next month. Doing tourism. Okay, so LACITA, Lee County Industrial Development Association. I met last week with them. We're going to be asked to go a direction. I think, what's the proper term? What is LACITA doing, Wendy? What David Schreiner is retiring or wants to, or Kevin Marks. sorry.
Kevin, yes. And so I did give a brief report to finance, that's why they're in tune to this. So I gave a brief report to finance earlier that there are some things happening. Kevin Marks has reported that he'd like to step down. While he doesn't have a specific date, he wants to work with us and get another option on the table before he actually steps away from it. But this is our opportunity to step back and really think about what do we want as a county. I will remind you that for many years, we have contributed towards LCIDA $10,000. This last year, it was $15,000. So the real crux of the question is going to be, if Lee County wants to participate on a regional approach, then it is likely going to cost us more than $15,000. And if they hire a full-time LACITA, let's say we keep the current structure and they hire somebody different. Before, Kevin's salary was in large part picked up by the hospital itself. That's not going to be the case going forward. So we've got to step back and think about what do we want this to look like. There are options and opportunities to perhaps join with Ogle County, Gredco, the City of Dixon, Lee County. So there's a lot of conversations taking place about what that would look like.
I think me and Wendy will explore the options. I do, and somebody else wants to help us with that. I think we've got Dixon Main Street wants to talk to us about a hybrid type situation and a website. So I think now's the time to not have blinders on, look and see what's out there, and then pick a direction we want to go, and then bring it back to committee. So this is for informational and where we're going, and we'll continue to work on it. So maybe Jim, you could help us with it with Jason Anderson. I might ask you to help out a little bit, and we'll.
Is that why you were looking at me so much?
Yes. Trying to telepathically let you know.
I was getting the
No,
message.
you're probably going to be doing it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Yep. All right. We'll go down to 8A. We had a resolution declaring the vacancy of the county board member, or County Board District 3, the appointment of Michael Pearson to fill the vacancy. Do we have to approve this, or will we approve that on farther on down the agenda, the resolution?
Move it to the county board agenda.
So I need a motion to do that. Mr. Kitson moves. Mr. Sheeline seconds it. Any discussion? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Same thing with the resolution appointing Robert Thompson to the Lee County Sheriff's Merit Commission. I need a motion to move that. Mr. Wilson moves. Mr. Scrogstad seconds it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I got a resolution appointing Ally Huss as an alternate member of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I think your information is in your packet there. I read it. I need a motion to put that and move that to the county board agenda. Mr. Wilson, Mr. Scroggs seconds it. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We have the raffle request. We got Walton Fest, Lee County FOP Lodge 220. We don't need a motion to approve them, do we?
We just need a motion to put all three of them on record. Yep.
All right, I need a motion to put all three of them. Mr. Copine,
Or two. I'm sorry.
all two of them, both of them. So I got a motion for Mr. Copine for both of them. Mr. Kitson seconds it. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Review of the per diem report, the county board approval. That's in your packet.
Can I say one thing, Bob?
Yes.
About that per diem? So typically, we're a month behind because we approve the per diems at the county board meeting. But because there are several members that went off that the treasurer's office wants to pay before the end of the year so they don't get a 1099,
Sure.
then we've added those to this payout.
Okay.
And then we'll go back to the normal.
Is that why there was two of them when I looked at, maybe I signed two of them today, two different ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So that was just for review? Yes, I have no executive session. So now we go into the county board agenda, setting up the,
Before you go there, we
Yes.
shifted gears from your printed copy and added a test vote right before this. For those of you that are dialed into onboard, do you see the test vote? All right, so just a quick reminder how this is going to work. When a motion is presented by a committee member, we will be codifying that motion up here on the screen. The meeting clerk will be codifying that motion up on the screen, and then she will open the vote. And that's when it'll pop up for you guys to take your vote. So Becky has it up on the screen now, and she is in the center screen. She is going to, and by the way, the clerk will open the vote upon the board chairman's direction. Once we have the motion where we want it to be, the chairman will open the vote. The clerk will technically go into the system and open the vote. And once she does that, you all should have something that pops up on your screen.
I did, but it didn't.
how'd you get a vote? I just got view approval.
Did you do it already, Tom?
I had to go out and come back, actually made it pop
I
up.
think you might have to go out and come back in because I'm not even seeing the.
Oh.
See, I'm not getting that.
Okay. Scroll down on this section right here. There it is. Say, click on view approval. Okay. You get it?
Yep.
You got it? Yep. You
I
got
did, I
it?
forgot you did an action.
I came back to finance test. What'd I do?
Okay. Scroll down.
Yeah, he's a goddamn comedian, you know?
Right now it's open.
So,
There we go. There's my test
so
vote.
how do I get back to where I was? I don't want to push closed book because you're, I don't trust you. I'm sorry.
But this way we can go.
You've all voted?
Yep.
At this point, once everybody has voted, the chair of the committee or the chair of the board will say, I'm going to close all voting because you're putting people on notice that you're closing the voting. So the chair is going to say that.
I'm going to close all voting.
All right. The clerk is then going to literally close the voting in the software, close approval. And once she does that,
Do we want the,
say notify this time.
and they'll ping, hear them?
Yep.
Oh, they're making a
That's
noise
everybody
down there, is that
being
what that is? Okay.
All right, so now then what pops up is the voting results. So you had 2 votes yes, 1 vote no, 3 abstained, and 1 no vote. Somebody didn't vote at all.
Which is,
Bob Olson.
I abstained. I abstained. You can't open it. That's bullshit. I have been silenced.
I've been silent.
Well, right, I didn't know who did it.
So one thing I'm getting,
Yeah.
One thing I'm getting out of this week, and Jack, why we had so much trouble in yours, is that it seems like if you're not in the book, but you're just scrolling down the meeting agenda, not in the book, you can get to, you can see that view approval quickly. If you have your book open, you have to go out of the book and come back in. That's what the hiccup, I think, is.
I don't want to vote. I want to get back to the regular thing.
Oh,
Is there, Wendy, is there any
Yes.
way that you can reach out to the peoples of, on board? Just maybe to find out what would be an easier way to do that?
Yes, I think I'm going to have to, because we've encouraged you and they encourage you to be in the open book.
Right. I did have to go out of the open book and I went to notifications and was able to vote from the notifications as well.
Hey, too much
Okay.
corn on there, probably had to do that.
Okay. So I lost control for a second. Bob, did you get, Tom, did you able to get him figured out? Yeah. Because we closed the voting, so you probably couldn't do
Oh,
anything.
no, I was just trying to get back home like many nights, Wendy.
All right. So here's what I want to remind you about. In your board rules, you do not need to use this process when you approve minutes, when you adjourn meetings. Some of those more perfunctory things are identified in your board rules that you just do the regular voice vote. Jim, I'm going to challenge you. What was your term you said in finance? The type of vote, you described the vote in a division of the House.
Division of
So
the
when,
House.
yeah, so any other vote other than those perfunctory things, division of the House, is when we'll be doing this roll call voting. We thought we were going to do this in January, but we still got some hiccups here, so I'm not sure we're going to do that. But we're going to, and we are going to do this for the full board meeting this month, because I want to see what happens with the full board too. So be prepared for that. In any case, keep in mind, the process is you all make a motion. A lot of times we're intending to have these motions already drafted and ready to go based on what we think you want. But we have the ability to make a change to the motion on the fly. The chair of the committee or the board chair will open the voting. The clerk will actually physically open the voting. You will vote. He will call for a close of the vote, and you might want to do it, Bob, a couple times just to make sure everybody's clear. We're closing the voting. And then we're going to physically close the vote. Your rules say that if you didn't get a vote in, once the vote is closed, there's no going back. You're going to be listed in the record, and there's no going back from that. So you do have an opportunity, though, to change your vote. If you get your finger in the wrong spot until the voting is closed, you get an opportunity to change that vote. So don't panic if you hit the wrong button. Just go back and hit the other button that you meant to say. And then up on the screen, as Becky showed you, will be the tally of the votes, and it will also list all of the members and specifically which way they voted. This is going to be a little more challenging because not all 20 board members will fit on that screen at once, which is a disappointment to me. I wanted everybody to see how they voted. The good news is, though, this will import automatically into the clerk's meeting minutes. So every vote that is a division of the House, I like that term, will actually be recorded as a roll call vote through this electronic process, except those perfunctory things that I already explained to you are allowed. By the way, Bob, your rules also allow any other time you as a chair can declare it to be just a voice vote. You don't have to go through this process every time. But if you do, it's very transparent and it transports into the meeting minutes. So,
But it's going to be time consuming too. So, I mean, if
So you-
it's a simple vote, I'm just going to do a voice vote and move on unless it's somebody comes to me earlier, or if we feel it's going to be a division of the House vote, we'll do that.
right. So, but what we're going to have to do is be prepared on the staff side, because it's a lot of pressure for Becky or Nancy to be sitting here and typing a motion, especially when not everybody is good about stating the motion in a way that we want in the minutes.
Oh,
So-
I follow you. Jeff.
So we have to set these motions up in draft form ahead of time. If you choose then to just do a voice, whatever, that's fine. You don't have to use it, but we'll probably have a lot of them set up ahead of time. Jack?
Mr. Scruggs said.
I just think that this could also be an opportunity for a board member when they are preparing themselves for a meeting. If they see something come up and they want to make a motion, I think this would give them an opportunity to prepare that motion and provide it to somebody that, ahead of time, that they're going to make a motion for something coming up.
Yeah, and we're going to try and stay a step ahead of that, but there will be times when we can't predict what you're going to make a motion for.
So even if that happens, but I want it to come from the floor. I don't want it scripted. So it looks like we you know, it needs to come from the floor and then,
Which is why these motions will all remain in draft format. Even if we pre-write them thinking we know what you want, we'll pre-write them. They'll remain in draft format until it comes from the floor and we know exactly that's what you want. So,
so somebody makes a motion and a second, and we have the discussion. During that time, somebody's going to be writing, cleaning up this motion to what they had. At that point, do I ask whoever made the motion, is that the correct motion?
yes, and it will appear up on the screen. So you're going to see the written motion up there on the screen. So the person making the motion can make sure that is exactly what you wanted. I really like your idea, Bob, of if you don't believe it's going to be controversial, to just call for a voice vote. Because what that's going to do is alleviate the stress. In particular, I'm thinking of Nancy during full board meetings and trying to revise last minute, complicated motions. If it's not controversial, then by all means, you can do that.
But I do like the motion up on the board because sometimes we're doing the minutes and we don't understand how the motion was. So this will be perfect for that.
Or
And it
somebody
al-
doesn't know what they're voting for. Look on the board. That's what you're voting. that's
So
what you're voting.
there's definitely trade-offs to doing this. It might seem scripted if we have some stuff ahead of time ready to go, but it's going to be way more transparent. And it's going to be way more transparent the more times you use this roll call vote in the system, because the public is going to understand how each board member voted. Whereas they don't always if it's just a voice vote, although a lot of times it's unanimous, so they do.
So is that something during the full board meeting that you could be typing, or does Nancy have to do that as clerk, the motion?
That Nancy has to do it as clerk. However, that's why I want to have some drafts out there for her that she can tweak without having to start from scratch. So that's
Sure.
to alleviate that. I want these motions in draft form, on the agenda in draft form at least.
There's a lot going on for her back there too, so that's. gonna be
Absolutely.
hard. Don't look like there's much, but there's a lot going on back there
Yeah.
during the meeting.
And for Becky too, sitting here, I mean, for both girls, there is a lot that they're trying to keep track of there. Now, the committee setting tends to be a little less formal, and so it's a little less stressful. But yeah, we're gonna figure it out with Nancy, and we're gonna try and get her, these draft motions so that all she may have to do is tweak something a little bit. And I love your idea, Jack. If you've got a motion that you want to make, get it to us ahead of time so we can get it in draft form in there and be prepared for it, so we're not doing this stuff on the fly. So it is possible that I, as administrator, can help with that behind the scenes, but oftentimes, especially at the full board meeting, I'm kind of juggling a bunch of stuff too. So I don't know that I will be very reliable to these two girls during meetings.
A lot of times, and I don't want to script it, and I don't want to get in trouble here, but a lot of times if it's something to do with finance, I will call on a finance person to make the motion, which you've seen that. And it's coming out of finance, what are you doing? So maybe you guys can get a motion ready.
But you see, by the time it gets to full board, finance has already made their motion, so we can replicate that. This is what finance recommended. That's why I think we can do a lot of draft.
Yeah, I think if you replicate that motion, and we don't want to stray too far from that, because that was a recommendation out of committee.
Right. So
And
that's why I think it's feasible, especially for the full board meeting, not so much for Becky, because we don't know which direction the committee will go during the committee meetings. So we'll see. This is all a test.
Maybe when we make the agenda, we could, like you do, the recommendation out of committee was.
Sure. And the other thing, I think if we use this voting system, then we can get a motion on the table. And so we can be typing that, then we can have the discussion. So that gives us a little more time during the discussion to actually get that written out up here so everybody can see it and it's agreeable. But if we get the motion on the table first and get a first and a second, then do discussion, then that gives us time to do that. So we could
Yeah.
actually use that method.
But only one of you can be on there at one time, so there's no way two of you can do that, correct?
Well, right now I have, what you see over there is on this computer, and on my computer is the middle screen.
Yep.
So I'm working to get the test motion on this computer and then sliding through the agenda on that one. So it does give you a little bit of time, but Nancy's agenda is going to be a lot more challenging than this one is.
It
But
is
again, for
because-
Nancy's agenda, we're going to already know what motions came out of committee. So we're already going to have a pretty good heads up. Doesn't mean the board can't change the motion on the fly at the full board meeting. That's why we need it in draft format.
If they do, we'll take the time, Nancy, and make sure we got it right. So we're not in no time constraints.
Yeah.
We'll relax and we'll get through it.
And to kind of answer your question, we believe that if, like, say, Nancy's in there and I'm in there trying to help her, for both in on board behind the scenes trying to draft that motion, that it'll probably end up with the whole system going, yeah, no, you two can't be in here at the same time doing the same thing. So I don't know that we can, which is why we're going to be prepared ahead of a meeting.
If
Okay.
you do, if they're both in there at the same time, it starts plugging things into the agenda that aren't there. and it
That's
gets
what
awful.
that's what I was getting at. We've had that before where we got to make sure, so.
So you'd have to have one person logged in.
I'll get with, maybe the four of us will meet
Sure.
before the meeting and we'll make sure we're all on the same page.
Sounds good.
Bob, I got a couple things.
Sure.
Zoom voting?
Yes, so Tim Bivens participated this morning by Zoom, and he was able to vote by Zoom.
Okay.
So your board rules allow it. In his case, he was ill, and he reported that in. Keep in mind, everybody, if you're not going to be here, you have to report that to your committee chair. That's the rules. In order for you to participate and vote, you have to report that to the chair of your committee. He did so. He was on board. He was able to vote, just like he was sitting in this room.
Okay. The other thing is the vote itself. Can it be taken and put into the public record?
Yes,
You know,
that's
like-
exactly what it will be, is
Instead
take
of-
the whole thing and who voted on what, including the motion, will all import automatically from the agenda into those minutes documents. So it's going to help the girls when they're doing minutes as well.
Right. That's cool.
So one cautionary thing for like your committee, Mike, we're still subject to OMA. So if like, let's say Angie was sick with, had kids that were sick and was at home, that would put you below let's say.
The physical quorum.
Yes, because you have to have the majority physically present in the room for somebody to be able to vote remotely.
So he's got a
So-
three-member committee.
we
So
gotta
if he and Nancy were there physically in the room and Angie were participating remotely, that would be okay.
I don't think we've ever really talked about.
And the reason we don't is just to give all of you, the Claims Committee meets actually in this room here or over there. We don't use the whole Zoom meeting thing because what they're in is not on board. They're in our accounts payable software, going through and looking at invoices. So we're not even using Zoom and we're not really using Onboard. So the Claims Committee at the committee level will be an exception to this. Mike, you won't be taking votes using the Onboard system.
Right. Okay.
There you go. But the rest of us have to be really cognizant.
Absolutely.
Let's take it one step farther. Could I possibly call on the motion from this on board, and then the records would reflect who made the motion and who seconded?
Absolutely. And just so you know, for this month, I'm happy to, as we always do, Nancy and Bob and I and Becky get together before county board meetings to make sure we've got everything where it needs to be. This month, though, is only going to be the test vote again. There's not going to be any real motions this month. It's just literally going to be the same test that you just walked through just now. All right, so we're going to do that 1 month before we actually move into the full blown.
All right, we'll get together and we'll get it figured out. Thank you. Any questions, comments?
So, yep.
Oh,
Oh, thank you,
no.
Mr. Wilson. I just wanted to make sure, Nancy, on the agenda, did I fall asleep? Did we approve the agenda?
We
that-
just got there.
Okay,
I
I'm
was
just getting there. Just wanted to
rudely
make,
interrupted. when I just got there.
just wanted to make sure that the finance committee did table the safety officer resolution, so that needs to come off.
Mr. Wilson?
The question I have is on Zoom, is if we go into executive session, does the person on Zoom get to participate in that? What if there's somebody in the room with them, or is that on the honor system that there's nobody?
I never thought about that.
It's on the honor system, unfortunately, because,
They should
yeah, we
probably
don't,
They should probably be shut off during an executive
But they have
session.
to be visible, is one of the rules.
right. The new rule says if you're going to participate remotely, you have to be on video.
With a shirt on. So,
I didn't say that, just for the record. But no, as to whether somebody might be in the room off camera, it's the honor system.
all right. I'm gonna do one someday, and you guys won't be able to keep a straight face when I get in. All right, let's move on. We're gonna set up the agenda. I'm just gonna read through these. If anybody's got a problem, we're gonna call to order, pledge allegiance, the roll call. The resolution declaring the vacancy in the county that we talked about earlier for Michael Pearson. The clerk gives the oath of office. Board chair announcements, approval of board minutes, no Joseph Meyer resolutions. Do we need that on there? If there's none, or I guess we need to read that?
We keep it on there each time as a placeholder. You don't need to read it at the full board meeting. We just keep it as a placeholder.
Okay, so H, zoning and planning, I'm not going to read through all that, but 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, we're good with that. We usually have that. Wendy's administrator monthly update, board member comments. Public comments, the county organizations presentations and updates, reports of committees, unfinished business, the Lowell Park Speed Zone Ordinance, new business, we've got approval of the motor fuel tax maintenance for 2023, the resolutions from zoning, 1598 and 1599, resolution amending the building permit fees, appellate prosecutor office resolution, resolution of county board meeting dates, board rules and procedure revisions. We're going to take off number 8, supervising of safety. Sheriff Whalen, all right with that. I've also got a Bob Thompson resolution for the state reimbursement. We need to put on there, Nancy?
Yep.
Okay, and you've got the other, okay. Establishing zoning ordinance review ad hoc committee. We're going to test the onboard system. Go down to appointments.
Okay, so back up 1 second. So are we doing anything with that baskets that came out of finance? Is that going to be going on to county board? So that should be also be under new business,
Yep,
correct? Okay, I will add that.
yep. Thank you for remembering that. Anything else? Come before our committees, it's not mentioned.
That's all I
All right.
had.
Okay, we got appointments, Bob Thompson, Ally Huss, zoning, executive session, the approval of county officer reports and quarterly treasurer, the monthly revenue reports, claims paid and vacation and payroll paid, approval of board member mileage and per diem, and of course, the adjournment and motion to approve the county board agenda. Okay, hold on.
Sorry, lost my train of thought. I didn't notice, and it was probably there and I got distracted for a minute, is the ad hoc committee resolution for the zoning ordinance review committee on there, Nancy? I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
number 9.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then under new business, Nancy, since we're voting on those two zoning 98 and they don't need to be under new business because we're voting on them earlier in the agenda. Is that not right? Everybody agree?
Right? That's what I thought, but
Okay.
So what do we do with the resolutions?
The resolutions, they just can go up under earlier on the agenda when they're doing the zoning voting on that.
Oh, you're going to move them up there, yes.
Because that's where the zoning
That's
stuff
what it should
happens.
be, yeah, it should be up there.
So, and then last but not least, I heard or learned right before the meeting that you are, somebody realized, maybe Alice, that we have a moratorium that has expired.
We need to,
And we need to redo that. So it's not on this agenda because it just came to our attention. So we'll add that to the county board agenda as
Yep.
well.
I would do another, 180 days or 90 days, probably 90 days. 180 days sounds terrible to the industry, so let's do 90 and
Okay.
we can always extend it. Is that all right?
Yep, extend it.
Yep.
I'm sorry, what was that called again, Wendy?
Alice?
Moratorium?
Moratorium on battery energy
battery, okay, thank you.
storage systems.
And Alice, can you do me a favor and grab one of the old ones and just update it with that extra 90 days and get that to the clerk to get added? Thank you.
Yes, that'd be perfect.
I think that's it.
And we have no ordinance held over from last month.
Yeah, well, the speed, Lowell Park
Speed,
speed, but
yeah.
that's the only one.
That's the one, okay, just checking.
Yep.
All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the proposed county board agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Copine, Mr. Sheeline seconds it. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Entertain a motion to adjourn the executive meeting. Mr. Sheeline, Mr. Kitson seconds it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.